Gender.
Bunna.
Sex.
Isini esingahambelaniyo.
Bong. Vrouwelijk.
Meetlo.
Isini.
Isibini.
Trans.
If you are interested in matters of gender, sexuality, gender justice, and inequality, you are at the right place.
Hello and welcome to the Women's and Gender Studies Department in the Faculty of Arts at the University of the Western Cape. The Women's and Gender Studies Department emerged out of a long history of University of the Western Cape student and staff struggles against gender inequalities and gender-blind teaching. The department offers an undergraduate program in which you can major in Women's and Gender Studies, but you can also simply take a few courses to add and enrich your bachelor degree. We also offer a more specialized postgraduate program, including an honors degree, a master's, and a PhD. Many people mistakenly think gender means women. In our program, gender is the analytical tool used to describe and reflect upon power relations between groups of men and groups of women. What can one gain from Women's and Gender Studies? People who care about the way inequalities continue to exist between different kinds of South Africans and in global contexts will find Women's and Gender Studies of great value. Given the legacies of injustices in our societies, alongside our Constitution's commitment to equality, there is a lot of work for graduates who have some expertise in Women's and Gender Studies. There are jobs in government, in the private sector, and in development, research, and aid agencies. Women's and Gender Studies is an interdisciplinary field that adds value for any career and profession, as it provides insight into how gender and its complex intersection with other forms of inequality, like race, class, sexuality, age, citizenship, and so on, operate from micro level of subjective well-being and family to macro levels of institutions like universities and corporations. Our modules feed into careers in human resources, research, training and counseling, and fit well with a wide range of disciplines including psychology, social work, history, anthropology and sociology, English, media studies, and journalism, as well as theology, and prepare students for a variety of careers emerging out of these combinations of interests.
My name is Tanu Msebenzi, and I'll be telling you a bit about my experience in Women and Gender Studies, and hopefully that will inspire you to inquire a little bit more. So in my experience, Women and Gender Studies is not something that you choose, but rather it chooses you. If you're passionate about transforming society, if you're passionate about equality and justice, then this really is the place for you. So when I first came into contact with Women and Gender Studies, it was through an elective, and I was an undergrad at the time and doing a completely different degree. But in this undergrad, I learned so much. There's a particular lesson that I'll never forget where I learned about a lady called Miss Truth. And this was a woman in America who fought or challenged what it meant to be a woman in America, and she took it further by outlining what it meant to be a black woman in America and being a woman in America at the same time. And this really taught me a lot about how we can exist as individuals, but there are certain things that affect us, or that are part of us or part of our bringing, that really affect the way that people perceive us. Yeah, so when I got to postgraduate, I took Women and Gender Studies, and here I really learned a little bit more about the structure of societies and the different layers of societies and how people are oppressed by these different layers of society. And so I think the key things that I really took away from Women and Gender Studies is that it's given me tools to be able to navigate society, even outside of Women and Gender Studies, but it's given me tools to be able to navigate different scenarios in society where people are being oppressed, where injustices appear, where inequality appears. So As I said at the beginning, if you're really passionate about inequality, justice, transforming your society, then this is really a place for you. It offers you the skills to be able to navigate through these spaces, even outside the context of women and gender studies.
Some highlights from our Women's and Gender Studies undergraduate program. The Women's and Gender Studies department does not offer first-year modules. If you want to do our second-year modules in your second year of study, you must make sure you choose at least one of the following in your first year: English, History, Humanities, Anthropology and Sociology. Please do consult our undergraduate booklet for more details. In our undergraduate courses, we address a wide range of contemporary issues related to gender and sexuality. You will be introduced to the study of gender and sexuality and challenged to think critically about issues that we normally take for granted as natural and normal. By asking questions about the way in which human beings are divided up at birth into male and female, our courses explore some of the experiences of those who do and those who don't fit into these simple categories. We critically reflect on what it means to be a man or a woman, and how performances of masculinity and femininity change according to context. You will also be introduced to thinking about how political and cultural processes in South Africa are gendered. By dealing with prominent cultural texts and political ideological processes, we focus on the gendered aspects of our political and cultural lives. You will be invited to consider the gendered implications of nationalism, nation building, and citizenship in South Africa during the last 2.5 decades, and how gendered identities and roles are prescribed through ideology, popular culture, and in everyday life. Another key focus in the undergraduate program is on gender and development. Engaging with South African case studies, you will explore how gender shapes and is shaped by global and regional processes of economic development. We attempt to expose the centrality of gender analysis in questioning dominant patterns of socioeconomic development and the importance of developing gender-sensitive and gender-just approaches. You will be encouraged to reflect critically on different views about development, the global order, and global socioeconomic systems.
Gender and embodiment is another key area of concern in our courses. Students are encouraged to understand how human bodies are not only biological, but also represented and understood socially and ideologically. In gender studies, bodies are analysed in terms of how they are stereotyped and represented, especially in worlds that we often take for granted, such as magazines, advertisements, public health pamphlets, and so on. In many advertisements, for example, products are advertised by idealizing certain bodies that are socially recognized as beautiful and desirable. These ideas about beauty and desirability are based on stereotypical assumptions about what ideal women or men should be like. For example, for men being strong and confident, and for women appealing to men and being sexually attractive. These controlling images therefore focus on gender conformity. They also focus on dominant ideas about old age being bad, whiteness being good, and able-bodiedness being the norm. You will also learn key skills of research through active participation in engaging in a research project that focuses on a contemporary gender issue and that has meaning in your own lives. For example, in 2020, our students doing this research module are investigating how COVID-19 and lockdown has impacted on women and other vulnerable people and affected current challenges of gender inequality and gender-based violence.
Students who take WGS courses in the undergraduate program have found our courses valuable at both a personal and professional level. As one of our second-year students said about our introductory course on gender and sexuality, this course really opened my eyes. I really enjoyed the way it made me think about myself and the world. Another said, I liked the way we looked at contemporary media in this course. It seemed really relevant. It gave me a lot to think about, said a second-year student about inputs on culture and politics. Students also appreciated the way our courses bring both local and global perspectives in gender and development. In the words of a third-year student, "The focus on the Western Cape made everything suddenly fall into place, and I could see how my own family had experienced globalization." Reflecting on the research course, a third-year student emphasized how this course gave me the tools to conduct my own research project. I feel really well prepared for postgraduate study. If you graduate with a degree in Women's and Gender Studies, you may want to further your education by registering for our honors program. Women's and Gender Studies is a department that has always had strong links with the outside world, since we acknowledge that our teaching and research is always political. We realize that if we do not seek to make a difference, our work may support the status quo and even provide excuses for the many inequalities in our society. We understand that what we do in the university can make a difference and should be actively challenging social injustices, including those that are evident on campus as well. In this respect, we are engaged in a range of cutting-edge projects that are related to education and knowledge-making and that shape our courses and our research program at all levels. For example, WGS is committed to working across different forms of making knowledge, including engaging rich collaborations between art, activism, and the university. Art and activism are threaded into our courses and also key research projects for staff and postgraduate students. WGS is committed to engaging with creative, playful, experimental, and student-centered pedagogical practices that hope to bring vitality to the learning process as well as a sense of belonging, confidence, and agency. WGS is engaged in a large research project that focuses on critical and creative approaches to rethinking food studies, with emphasis on gender and other inequalities. WGS has been very productive in researching and engaging with policy around sexuality education, reproductive health, and injustices and abuses related to gender and sexuality, such as violence against women, children, and non-binary people. We also contribute to research and pedagogies directed at thinking critically about men and masculinities in the project of gender equality and justice. All of these areas of ongoing work and others provide a productive community and space for our students to do their own work and inspire our undergraduate teaching as well.